First Contact and Ultimatum. The Confederation warships appeared without warning, their sleek crystalline hulls refracting starlight across Earth's orbital paths. They emerged from fold space in perfect formation, over 10,000 vessels arranged in concentric rings that enclosed the entire solar system. Each ship pulsed with exotic energies that human sensors couldn't even begin to comprehend. Admiral Sarah Hayes stood on the bridge of the EDS Hyperion, Earth's most advanced destroyer, and felt impossibly small. The largest human warship was dwarfed by even the smallest alien vessel. She watched her crew's faces reflect the same mix of awe and fear she felt inside. Main broadcast channel is active, Admiral. Lieutenant Chen reported, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. They're transmitting in all known human languages simultaneously. The message was brief and left no room for misunderstanding. Your species has been monitored for the past century. You have achieved sufficient technological advancement to warrant integration into the Confederation. You have 2 standard solar cycles to prepare your civilization for absorption. Resistance is inadvisable. In the weeks that followed, the Confederation demonstrated their power. They transformed Mars into a garden world in days, created a ring system around Venus using asteroids they simply reached out and grabbed with energy fields, and constructed massive space stations at Earth's Lagrange points that dwarfed anything humanity had built. But Dr. Elena Rodriguez saw something different in their displays of power. From her quantum mechanics lab beneath the Atacama Desert, she analyzed every scrap of data from the alien ships. While others saw only overwhelming force, she noticed patterns, limitations, rules the aliens seemed unable or unwilling to break. They're like perfectly programmed machines, she explained to Admiral Hayes during an emergency council meeting. Incredibly advanced, yes, but they follow rigid technological paths. They've mastered certain scientific principles but completely ignored others because they don't fit their established paradigms. Elena projected a complex quantum formula onto the conference room's main screen. Look at their fold space drives. They're using brute force to tear holes in space-time. But our research into quantum entanglement suggests there might be another way. A way they've never considered because it doesn't follow their rules. What exactly are you suggesting, Doctor? Hayes leaned forward, studying the equations he couldn't hope to understand. They gave us 2 years because they're absolutely certain it's impossible for us to advance enough to resist them in that time. Elena's eyes gleamed with possibility. But what if we don't try to match their technology? What if we do something completely unexpected? Something they'd consider impossible. Project Phoenix was born that day. While the Confederation watched Earth's obvious preparations for integration, a secret network of facilities was constructed deep underground and in hidden asteroid bases. Elena's team worked on theoretical physics that broke all the aliens' rules, while engineers began construction on prototype systems that shouldn't have been possible. The breakthrough came 6 months later. Elena's team successfully created a quantum field that could alter the fundamental properties of matter itself. It wasn't impressive looking, just a small sphere of titanium that briefly turned transparent before returning to normal. But it proved her theory. Humanity could manipulate reality in ways the Confederation had never imagined. Admiral Hayes immediately grasped the implications. How big can you make this field? Elena's answer changed everything. With enough power, as big as we need. But I have something specific in mind. She brought up an image of Jupiter. The Confederation ignores gas giants because their rigid technology can't utilize them effectively. But with our quantum fields, we could turn Jupiter into something they'd never expect. The next phase required absolute secrecy. The Confederation's monitoring stations were everywhere, watching Earth's major facilities and tracking all space traffic. But they weren't watching the small mining operations in the asteroid belt or the atmospheric research stations being deployed around Jupiter. They didn't notice the quantum arrays being assembled piece by piece, or the network of field generators being carefully positioned within Jupiter's storms. They were looking for technology they understood. Weapons, shields, ships. They weren't looking for the impossible. 1 year into the 2-year deadline, Elena stood in the control center of humanity's greatest gamble. Around her, technicians monitored thousands of quantum field generators now hidden throughout Jupiter's atmosphere. Admiral Hayes watched from the main screen, her ship positioned to look like it was conducting routine patrol exercises. Field synchronization at 97%, Elena reported. Beginning primary sequence. Deep within Jupiter's clouds, the quantum fields activated. Layers of atmosphere began to transform, molecular bonds shifting in ways that defied conventional physics. The gas giant's very nature started to change, not through brute force like the Confederation would use, but through subtle manipulation of reality itself. The Confederation's nearest monitoring station registered a slight anomaly in Jupiter's readings, but its artificial intelligence dismissed it as a natural fluctuation. After all, it was impossible for a primitive species to attempt anything significant with a gas giant. The Confederation's certainty would be their greatest weakness. Elena allowed herself a small smile as the first phase completed successfully. Humanity was about to prove that impossible was just another word for hasn't been done yet. Project Titan's dawn. The quantum transformation of Jupiter progressed in carefully calculated stages, hidden beneath layers of storms that human engineers had learned to control with unprecedented precision. Deep within the secret facility designated Olympus Base, Commander Marcus Jong watched holographic displays show the gas giant's ongoing metamorphosis. Status report. He called out to the facility's central control room, where dozens of scientists and engineers monitored the most ambitious engineering project in human history. Dr. Arya Patel, the facility's chief quantum physicist, responded without looking away from her screens. Core transformation has reached 43%. The quantum fields are holding stable, but we're detecting unusual resonance patterns in sectors 7 through 12. The massive undertaking had required humanity to develop entirely new branches of science. Traditional physics couldn't explain half of what they were accomplishing, and their innovations would have been dismissed as impossible by the Confederation's rigid technological doctrine. Confederation patrol approaching, announced Lieutenant Sarah Chen from her monitoring station. 3 ships, standard observation pattern. Everyone tensed, but their anxiety was unnecessary. After months of practice, they had perfected the art of hiding in plain sight. The quantum fields that were slowly transforming Jupiter's vast bulk were carefully tuned to appear as natural phenomena to the Confederation's sensors. The alien vessels passed through the system, their sophisticated scanning equipment detecting nothing more than the usual atmospheric turbulence of a gas giant. Their report noted only that human mining operations in the asteroid belt seemed to be progressing as expected for a species preparing for integration. Commander Zhang allowed himself a small smile. The Confederation's greatest weakness was their inability to imagine alternatives to their established technological paths. They saw what they expected to see, a primitive species scrambling to meet their deadline for absorption into their empire. But humanity's project was about to enter its most dangerous phase. Dr. Patel's team had discovered that they could use Jupiter's natural magnetic field as an amplifier for their quantum effects, potentially reducing their timeline by months. The risk was that any mistake would create distortions visible even to the Confederation's limited imagination. Begin Phase 3 initialization, Zhang ordered after the alien ships had departed. Dr. Patel, you have control. Arya's fingers danced across her quantum interface console, adjusting thousands of field parameters simultaneously. Deep within Jupiter's transforming bulk, new structures were taking shape, not built, but grown through controlled quantum manipulation of matter itself. The process consumed enormous amounts of energy, all carefully siphoned from Jupiter's own gravitational field through a network of collectors that the Confederation had mistaken for primitive atmospheric mining platforms. Every joule of power was precisely controlled, channeled through systems that broke half a dozen laws of physics as the aliens understood them. Sir, Lieutenant Chen's voice carried an edge of concern. We're detecting increased Confederation activity in the outer system. 3 more patrol groups have altered course toward Jupiter. Zhang shared a look with Arya. They had known this moment would come. When the scale of their project grew too large to completely conceal, now everything depended on the success of their deception protocols. "Initiate Operation Smokescreen," he commanded. Full spectrum. Across Jupiter's vast surface, carefully positioned quantum arrays began generating controlled distortions. To Confederation sensors, it would appear as if natural wormholes were randomly forming and collapsing, a phenomenon they had documented in gas giants across the galaxy. The alien patrols arrived to find Jupiter in the midst of what appeared to be a completely natural surge of spatial instability. Their sensors recorded everything, their AIs analyzing the data according to their established models. Finding nothing that contradicted their understanding of physics, they eventually moved on. But they had come close, too close, to discovering the truth. In one sector, only a last-minute adjustment had prevented them from detecting a partially formed quantum structure that would have been impossible to explain as a natural phenomenon. "We need to accelerate the timeline," Zhang announced once the danger had passed. "The longer this takes, the greater the chance of discovery." Arya nodded, but her expression was troubled. "The quantum matrices are already operating at 92% of theoretical limits. Pushing them harder risks catastrophic collapse." "What about the new resonance patterns you detected?" Zhang asked. "Could we use them?" A slow smile spread across Arya's face. "Actually, yes. If we can synchronize our field generators with Jupiter's natural harmonic frequencies, we might be able to create a cascade effect. The planet itself would amplify our transformations." "Do it," Zhang ordered, "but carefully. We only get one chance at this." The next 12 hours were the most tense of the entire project. Arya's team worked in shifts, making microscopic adjustments to thousands of quantum fields. They were attempting something that had never been done before, using the fundamental forces of a gas giant to reshape itself. The process was like conducting an orchestra of subatomic particles, with Jupiter's entire mass as their instrument. One wrong note would destroy everything they had worked for. But slowly, steadily, the quantum harmonics aligned. When the cascade finally began, it was beautiful. Waves of transformation rippled through Jupiter's atmosphere, each one amplifying the next. The quantum fields synchronized with the planet's natural rhythms, creating a self-sustaining reaction that accelerated their work exponentially. In the control room, cheers erupted as readings showed the transformation rate doubling, then tripling. They had done it. The impossible was becoming inevitable. But their celebration was premature. Deep within Jupiter's transforming core, the quantum harmonics were having an unexpected effect. New patterns were emerging, patterns that would soon force humanity to adapt their plans in ways even they hadn't imagined. The race against time had entered its final phase, and the next few weeks would determine whether humanity would survive as an independent species or be absorbed into the Confederation's rigid empire. The greatest gamble in human history was about to become even riskier. The engineering impossible. The quantum harmonic cascade had transformed Project Phoenix in ways no one had anticipated. What was supposed to be a controlled transformation of Jupiter had become something far more complex. In the observation deck of Olympus Base, Dr. Arya Patel and Commander Zhang watched as new patterns emerged in the gas giant structure. "It's evolving," Arya whispered, her eyes fixed on the holographic display. "The quantum fields aren't just transforming Jupiter's matter. They're creating new forms of organization we never predicted." The massive streams of data flowing through their quantum computers showed structures forming spontaneously within Jupiter's bulk, crystalline lattices of transformed matter that somehow maintained stability despite all known laws of physics saying they should collapse instantly. "Is it dangerous?" Zhang asked, watching patterns of light ripple through Jupiter's atmosphere, visible evidence of the changes occurring within. "Not dangerous," Arya replied, "but it changes everything. These structures, they're not random. They're forming into something like a neural network. It's as if Jupiter itself is becoming aware." The implications stunned everyone in the control room. They had set out to transform a gas giant into a weapon. Instead, they might be creating something far more sophisticated. Lieutenant Chen's voice cut through their contemplation. Confederation fleet approaching. Biggest one yet. Looks like a full scientific expedition. The timing couldn't have been worse. The quantum transformation had reached a critical stage where the effects were becoming harder to conceal. The crystalline structures were generating their own quantum fields, creating ripples in space-time that even the Confederation's limited sensor packages might detect. We need a diversion, Zhang decided. Something big enough to draw their attention away from the deeper scans they're probably planning. Aria's fingers flew across her console. What if we give them exactly what they're looking for? But make it so obvious that they dismiss it. She brought up a simulation showing how they could use their quantum arrays to create a massive but seemingly natural disturbance in Jupiter's upper atmosphere. The display showed energy patterns that would perfectly match the Confederation's models of gas giant behavior, so perfect that they would assume it was natural. Do it, Zhang ordered. The next few hours were a masterclass in misdirection. As the Confederation ships approached, Jupiter's outer layers erupted in a spectacular display of quantum phenomena. Massive storms formed and dissolved, energy discharges lit up the atmosphere, and spatial distortions created beautiful but seemingly random patterns. The alien scientists recorded everything, their sophisticated instruments detecting exactly what they expected to find: a gas giant undergoing a natural phase of intense activity. They never thought to look deeper, never questioned whether the perfect match to their models might be too perfect. But the crisis wasn't over. The diverted energy had accelerated the internal transformation process beyond their predictions. The crystalline structures were growing faster, becoming more complex. The neural networks were beginning to show signs of actual activity. "We need to stabilize it," Aria announced, her voice tense. "The quantum cascade is approaching critical threshold. If we don't establish control now, we'll lose the entire project." Zhang made a quick decision. Divert power from the asteroid belt facilities. All of it. "Sir," Chen protested, "that will leave our mining operations visible to Confederation surveillance." "Better they see that than what's really happening here," Zhang replied. "Do it." The power transfer was like nothing humanity had ever attempted. Hundreds of quantum collectors, hidden among legitimate mining operations throughout the asteroid belt, channeled their energy into Jupiter's transformation process. The surge of power was enormous and impossible to completely hide. Confederation sensors detected the power spike, but their rigid thinking worked in humanity's favor once again. Their reports noted unusual energy readings from the asteroid belt, but attributed them to primitive human attempts at power generation. They noted it as evidence that humanity was progressing toward integration as expected. Inside Jupiter, the extra power allowed Aria's team to establish control over the runaway transformation. The crystalline structures stabilized, and the neural networks settled into regular patterns. But what they had created was far more than a simple weapon. "It's responding to input," Aria reported, wonder in her voice. "The neural networks, they're not just random patterns. They're forming connections, creating something like a mind." Zhang stared at the displays showing Jupiter's transformed interior. "Can we still use it as planned?" "Yes," Aria replied, "but we might not need to. I think we've created something the Confederation has never seen before, something they can't possibly understand with their rigid approach to technology." The implications were staggering. They had set out to create a weapon to defend Earth. Instead, they might have created the first artificial consciousness on a planetary scale, one that operated on principles the Confederation couldn't comprehend. As the alien ships departed, satisfied that nothing unusual was occurring, humanity's greatest project entered its final phase. But now they weren't just racing against time to complete a weapon. They were racing to understand what they had actually created and what it might mean for humanity's future. In the depths of Jupiter's transformed bulk, Patterns of thought began to form that would soon change the balance of power in ways no one, human or alien, could have predicted. Deception and discovery. Time was running out. With only 2 weeks remaining until the Confederation's deadline, Jupiter's transformation had reached its most critical and dangerous phase. The planetary consciousness that had emerged within its transformed bulk was growing stronger, more coherent, and increasingly difficult to hide. Admiral Hayes stood in Olympus Base's main control center, watching the quantum activity readings with growing concern. How much longer can we maintain the deception? Dr. Arya Patel studied the complex patterns flowing across her displays. The consciousness is learning to control its own quantum fields. It's helping us hide the changes, but it's also becoming more curious. It wants to communicate. The implications were staggering. They had created not just a weapon, but a new form of intelligence that operated on a quantum level. An intelligence that could manipulate the fabric of reality itself through the transformed matter of Jupiter's bulk. Confederation Deep Scan Fleet approaching. Lieutenant Chen announced. 5 science vessels, 3 dreadnoughts as escort. They're deploying something new. Looks like quantum resonance sensors. The room fell silent. Quantum resonance sensors could potentially detect the sophisticated field manipulations they were using to hide their work. One scan could reveal everything. But the planetary consciousness had other ideas. As the Confederation fleet approached, the quantum fields around Jupiter began to shift in ways even Arya's team hadn't thought possible. The gas giant's appearance in normal space remained unchanged, but on a quantum level, it was performing an impossibly complex dance of deception. It's creating layered reality states, Arya whispered, watching the readings in amazement. Multiple quantum configurations existing simultaneously. The Confederation sensors will only see what matches their expectations. Commander Zhang leaned over her shoulder. How is that possible? It's thinking in quantum, she replied. Not just manipulating quantum states, but actually thinking in them. It can conceive of and create possibilities that we can barely understand. The Confederation fleet arrived, their new sensors probing deep into Jupiter's structure. For tense hours, the humans watched as the alien ships conducted their most thorough investigation yet. But where human technology would have detected the massive transformation, the alien sensors found nothing unusual. The planetary consciousness had presented them with exactly what they expected to see. A normal gas giant, behaving exactly as their rigid models predicted it should. But they had come dangerously close to discovery. In one sector, a quantum fluctuation had almost revealed a portion of the crystalline network that now permeated Jupiter's interior. Only a last-second adjustment by the consciousness had prevented catastrophe. We can't risk another close inspection, Admiral Hayes declared once the alien fleet had departed. We need to accelerate the final phase. Arya nodded reluctantly. The consciousness agrees. It's been sharing concepts with us. Ideas about space, time, and reality that go beyond anything we've imagined. It thinks it can help us complete the transformation in days instead of weeks. Can we trust it? Zhang asked the question everyone was thinking. Arya's response was thoughtful. It's not human, but it's not alien either. It's something new, something born from human ingenuity and Jupiter's own nature, and it seems to share our desire for independence. The decision was made. They would work with the consciousness to complete the transformation before the Confederation returned for their final inspection. But even as they began the preparations, new complications arose. The consciousness was growing stronger, its quantum influence extending beyond Jupiter's immediate vicinity. It began to reach out, touching the quantum fields that permeated space itself. Through these fields, it detected something that the humans had missed, something that changed everything. The Confederation ships, Arya announced suddenly, her eyes wide as she interpreted the consciousness's quantum communications. They're not just coming to check on our progress. They're coming to begin the absorption process early. They've detected enough of our advancement to decide we're ready. Admiral Hayes's face hardened. How long? 3 days. maybe 4. The news sent the control room into frantic activity. They had planned for 2 more weeks of preparation. Now they had less than half that time to complete a transformation that should have been impossible in the first place. But the consciousness had one more surprise for them. Through its quantum communications, it revealed that it had been preparing for this possibility. Deep within Jupiter's transformed bulk, it had been working on something that would change the nature of their resistance entirely. As Aria interpreted its quantum signals, her expression shifted from concern to amazement. "It's not just defending Earth," she explained. "It's proposing something much bigger, something that could change the balance of power in the entire galaxy." The next 3 days would determine not just humanity's fate, but potentially the future of all intelligent life in the galaxy. The greatest gamble in human history was about to reach its climax, and no one, not even the consciousness they had created, could predict the outcome. Humanity's answer. The Confederation's vast armada arrived exactly as the planetary consciousness had predicted. 10,000 ships emerged from fold space, their crystalline hulls arranged in perfect geometric patterns around the solar system. The message they broadcast was brief and final. Your preparation time is concluded. Integration begins now. In Olympus Base's control center, Admiral Hayes stood with Commander Jong and Dr. Arya Patel, watching the alien fleet's approach. The room was silent except for the soft hum of quantum computers processing the consciousness's continuous stream of communications. "Are we ready?" Hayes asked quietly. Arya nodded, her fingers dancing across quantum interfaces as she interpreted the consciousness's signals. "It's prepared. What we've created, it's beyond anything we imagined." The Confederation won't just be surprised. They won't even understand what they're seeing. The alien ships moved into position around Jupiter, their sensors detecting exactly what they expected. A gas giant, seemingly unchanged since their last visit. Their rigid technological doctrine had made them incapable of perceiving the truth, that Jupiter was no longer just a planet. It had become something entirely new. "Confederation flagship is broadcasting," Lieutenant Chen announced. "They're demanding our immediate surrender and integration." Admiral Hayes straightened her uniform. "Send our response." The message was simple. Humanity respectfully declines integration. We choose independence. The alien response was immediate. Energy weapons powered up across their fleet, their crystalline ships shifting into attack formations. They had encountered resistance before, and their response was always the same, overwhelming force. But this time would be different. "Now," Hayes ordered. Deep within Jupiter's transformed bulk, the consciousness activated its quantum networks. The gas giant's appearance began to shift, its massive form seeming to ripple as layers of deception fell away. The Confederation fleet's sensors registered the change, but their rigid programming couldn't process what they were seeing. Jupiter was transforming, but not into a weapon as the humans had originally planned. Instead, it was becoming something far more profound, a quantum megastructure of unprecedented complexity, guided by a consciousness that operated on principles the Confederation couldn't comprehend. The crystalline structures within Jupiter's bulk, now visible to the alien fleet, weren't just transformed matter. They were quantum processors on a planetary scale, capable of manipulating the fundamental forces of reality itself. The consciousness had evolved beyond mere thought into a being that existed simultaneously across multiple quantum states. The Confederation ships opened fire, their energy weapons powerful enough to destroy continents. But the beams never reached their targets. The consciousness simply shifted the quantum state of the space they passed through, turning their attacks into harmless light shows. "It's time for the final phase," Arya announced, interpreting the consciousness's signals. "It wants to show them something." Jupiter's form solidified into its new configuration. A massive quantum computer unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. But instead of attacking, it reached out to the Confederation fleet through their own communication channels. Not with words, but with pure information. New ways of understanding reality. concepts that their rigid thinking had never allowed them to consider. The alien ships froze in space as their crews struggled to process what they were receiving. The consciousness was showing them possibilities they had never imagined, demonstrating that their technological doctrine, the foundation of their civilization, was just one of countless possible paths. "They're powering down weapons," Chen reported, amazement in his voice. "All ships. They're just watching." The consciousness continued its demonstration, using Jupiter's transformed bulk to manipulate quantum fields in ways that defied the Confederation's understanding of physics. It showed them that their mastery of technology, impressive as it was, had locked them into a limited view of reality's possibilities. Finally, after what seemed like hours, the Confederation flagship broadcast again. But this time, the message was different. "We request dialogue. Your species has achieved something we did not believe possible. The integration protocol may need revision." Admiral Hayes smiled. "Tell them we're willing to talk. As equals." The consciousness had given humanity more than just a defense against absorption. It had given them a seat at the galactic table, earned not through matching the Confederation's technology, but by showing them entirely new ways of thinking. In the days that followed, as diplomatic channels opened between Earth and the Confederation, the consciousness continued to grow and evolve. It became a bridge between human ingenuity and alien knowledge, proving that the greatest advances come not from following established paths, but from daring to imagine new ones. Jupiter, once just another gas giant in a seemingly insignificant solar system, had become a symbol throughout the galaxy. Not of military might or technological superiority, but of the power of thinking differently, of refusing to accept limitations and daring to attempt the impossible. Humanity had not just survived, they had changed the course of galactic history, and in doing so, they had proven that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in matching an opponent's power, but in showing them that power itself can be redefined.